The meeting of the General Laws and Technology Committee will come to order now. Let me just do a couple of housekeeping things. Do the roll call first. That's right. Roll call.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
All right. Thank you very much. We have one request for a re-referral. Senate Bill 182, Senator Saslaw's bill to Commerce and Labor.
Second.
All right, been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Do we need to record that? Okay, recorded vote. Yeah.
That's 12-0.
All right, and we have a lengthy list of bills that will not be heard today. You're 627 in there. Okay. Senate bills 905 and 906 from Senator Stanley. Senate bills 645 and 658 from Senator Serville. Senate bill 627 from Senator Vogel. Senate bill 658 from Senator Spruill. Senate bill 915 from Senator Marsden. And Senate bills 708 and 709 from Senator McClellan. So without objection, those will all be passed by for the day. All right, first bill we'll take is up Senator Edwards.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 445 is a Code Commission bill. If you have any questions, Brooks Braun here can answer every question. It has to do with, it's a cleanup bill regarding cemeteries and the acquisition of abandoned cemeteries in certain cities and towns. And it does several things. Number one, it changes the definition of the cities and towns from the population brackets to the actual names of the cities and towns. For example, the words any county, which county has a population of not less than 24,500, nor more than 25,600. That's stricken. And the words the counties of Scott and Wythe are in place of that, which is a little bit easier to understand. That's one thing it does. It also provides that among other things, the judicial determination as to whether or not a town, a cemetery has been abandoned is determined by, and there's some language changes there, determined by a court. And then it has to do with the sale of the abandoned cemetery and what happens to the proceeds. Unless the court directs otherwise, it goes to a fund called the Perpetual Care Fund for the cemetery. Other technical changes are in the bill, and that's basically what it is. Substitute. Okay. There's a substitute that needs to be adopted.
All right, we had a moved and a seconded for adoption of the substitute. Okay. Does anybody have any questions related to the substitute? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. All right, we have the adoption of the substitute's been adopted.
I ask that the bill be reported.
All right, any questions of the patron? All right, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak either for or against the bill? All right.
Report as the substitute.
Substitute. All right, it's been a motion to approve the bill as in the nature of a substitute. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, let's go to the voting board. So.
That's 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Bill.
That's it.
All right. Next is Senator Peake.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm here on Senate Bill 1008, and this involves ambulance and rescue squad services. This is based on a tragic event that happened several years ago, and I have a witness here on that. But Scottsville has a tri-county area. Albemarle, Fluvanna, and Buckingham all join at the James River, right there together. Any sportsmen have probably been there, been on the river. What happened is a lady, Miss Emanuel's mother, had a heart attack. She lives in Buckingham, which is about a mile across the Albemarle line into Buckingham. Scottsville has a volunteer fire department. Scottsville is in Albemarle. And she called 911, and it would go to Buckingham. Well, the closest rescue squad in Buckingham is in Dillon, which is about 20 to 25 minutes away. Buckingham would not transfer the call to Scottsville, which was a mile away, right across the river. They went back and forth. Miss Emanuel talked. Ultimately, the one from Dillon came. They got there. Her mother had been talking, conversant, and in about 8 minutes died on the way. So if the rescue squad had come from a mile away, could have gotten her, would have been able to give her treatment, shock, and gotten her to University of Virginia Hospital. That's our belief. Miss Emanuel started checking into this a year or two ago, right after it happened, to find out what was going on. Why could you not get me Scottsville, which was a mile away? Why could they not come from Albemarle County into Buckingham and treat my mother? And I called the Buckingham city attorney or county attorney as well, and never got a clear answer. I don't think Miss Emanuel ever got a clear answer. It is her belief, and it seems to be that there's sometimes under paragraph D of the statute, 146.19, it says localities and can enter into these mutual aid agreements and reciprocal assistance. But it may be that a county doesn't want somebody else coming in, because then that rescue squad will get paid, depending on how it may work. And they're volunteers, or there may be something set up how they receive their funds, whether it's Medicaid or Medicare. And I know it's Miss Emanuel's belief. I have not been able to confirm it beyond a doubt. But if it is the case that Buckingham was preventing Scottsville from coming over because they didn't want Scottsville to get reimbursement for the trip, that should not be, and it should not be between any county. We want all counties to cooperate, and we have this frequently on these county lines, especially in rural areas where there may be a bigger community that has its own rescue squad right over the county line. So the purpose of my bill is to make sure that that does not happen to anyone else. And so the line that I added was, you may not prevent somebody from another county from coming into your jurisdiction for financial reasons. Now, they may have their mutual aids, divvy up the territory. This bill does not try to get into that part of it. We just want to prevent them from doing it for financial reasons. And if you have any questions for me, or have Ms.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the patron?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Senator Peake, I understand, because we've had the same situation between counties and state lines. The calls go into 911. I'm not sure that any jurisdiction is doing this maliciously. I think it's just an issue of the dynamics. But I support it. But I don't know that we can pass. Are we passing laws that are going to require volunteer associations?
No, Mr. Chairman and Senator Ruff, it's a very brief sentence. They have these mutual aid agreements, so they enter into those. And so we're not trying to interfere with those to the extent that they say they're preventing someone else from coming into the county. So we do not want Buckingham to enter into a mutual aid agreement, but you cannot send your rescue squad into Scottsville because we don't want you to get reimbursed. I don't have any proof that that's what's going on now. I spoke to the Commonwealth's attorney, county attorney, who also happens to be the Commonwealth's attorney, but a different issue. But I want to make sure that doesn't happen, and so I think what we have put in this statute will make sure that that is not the basis, and so that when they're entering into these mutual aid agreements, it does not happen. And I don't know how that works across state lines. I'm sure they can enter into the same mutual aid agreements, but would not prevent somebody from coming in from another state simply because the reimbursement for that rescue squad trip would go to an out-of-state unit.
Senator Donovan.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if there's anybody from the Department of Health Professions, but I believe that we have an emergency services
reciprocal with our neighboring states for cases of emergency or like this, so that there is an ability for EMS to go between the two states, but we might need some clarification on that.
And how this only well, it might.
Senator Peake.
Excuse me, Mr.
Go
Chairman,
ahead.
I'm sorry. This happened between counties and not states. Senator Ruff's situation is on the state
Right.
line.
Senator Mason.
So you said the call went into Buckingham first?
Yeah, a call went into, and Miss Emanuel's here who made the call. It went into Scottsville. Scottsville was right across. She had just driven from there. She has submitted a statement. I hope the chairman has it. She thought she sent to everyone. It's been sent to, I think, all the General Assembly. This call went into Scottsville, and then Scottsville was not able to respond. Yeah, Albemarle, which is, Scottsville's in Albemarle. Scottsville Fire Rescue is a mile away. They transferred it to Buckingham, which is in Dillon, which is 30 minutes away. And she is here to tell you
All right, any other questions?
what she found out.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the bill?
Yes, come on up, Ms.
Yes, come
Emanuel,
forward.
on up.
Good afternoon. My name's Katie Emanuel, and the reason I'm here is because my mother died because of revenue recovery. And what Senator Peake, there are some facts that are a little incorrect, a little skewed. When I first called 911, I went into Albemarle because I'm so close to the Albemarle County line. My calls go straight to Albemarle, and that's on a landline. I'm not directed to Buckingham. That's a whole nother set of issues that can't get fixed for another year and a half, evidently. Then they bounce me back to Buckingham, they bounce me back to Albemarle, and Albemarle tells me they can't help me, which, let me tell you that when we moved to Buckingham, Albemarle serviced Buckingham all the time. What we didn't know is there was a new policy in effect. And what I had sent you this morning, and I'm sorry I didn't give you more notice, but I was given the notice this morning of the committee it was going to. I sent you all the press releases that have covered this story because there's a reporter in Charlottesville that dug into this and actually found a document that described the revenue recovery program between Buckingham and Albemarle, and that since revenue recovery went into effect in Buckingham, that people were literally driving their loved ones to the county line and calling 911, and that Scottsville could no longer service in Buckingham because the call times were so long before they bothered to call for appropriate help that they no longer wanted to have the liability. This is documented. You can go find it. It's actually on the CBS News link that I sent you. So here we have a document sitting here telling us that revenue recovery is the cause. This went into effect January 1st. My mother had her heart attack March 5th. No one knew this policy went into effect. This can't be. People shouldn't, and some of the facts also that are a little skewed when you get to it. So I'm 5 minutes from the rescue squad that was sitting idle. The rescue squad that was called and sent to me is 30 minutes away. That's 25 minutes that could have been saved. My mother was sitting upright and talking when she was loaded in the ambulance. My daughter wiped the tears off her face just before she went into the ambulance at 6 years old. My mother was sitting upright. We followed that ambulance. And on the way, I told my daughter, Grammy's going to be fine. We're going to the best hospital. They have the best cardiologist. Everything's going to be fine. Then at some point, very close to UVA, we couldn't see Grammy anymore. She was no longer sitting upright. Well, that point was 8 minutes out. So you do the math. And that's over revenue recovery.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you very much. Anybody else wish to speak in favor on this particular bill?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just point out the call went into 911. 911 went into Albemarle, and it is Ms. Emanuel when I filed the bill, it told me that Buckingham was refusing Albemarle's coming in because they wanted the revenue. So that's what led to me with this line.
All right. Is there anyone opposed to the bill?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just, in talking with my colleague from Fire Services as a law enforcement guy, I'm wondering if we can narrow it just a bit on line 52, understanding how mutual aids works. It says providing emergency services to emergency medical services. That would narrowly define it to
Yes,
the
ambulance services.
ambulance
yes.
services and those folks that provide EMT services.
That would be a friendly amendment,
So,
certainly.
Senator Reeves, you want to make an amendment there?
If the patron requests that, that'd be an okay, friendly amendment. I'd like to put in the word medical services.
That would be fantastic.
So add the word medical, this will be adding the word medical after emergency on line 52. Is there a second to that motion? All right, any discussion or questions on that? All right, all in favor say aye. All opposed, no. That amendment is adopted. Yes.
Just to speak to the bill for a second, I have no objections to the bill and I'm in support of it. I just think that there's the possibility that as we go forward, there may need to be a proactive statement. This is not just this one area where this is a problem, and it may be that we need EMS to actually develop reciprocal agreements that result in the best services possible. The closest ambulance in any geographic area, these lines that we have that are political subdivisions are a little less relevant now in the day and age that we have than they used to be. And I think we need to be focusing on patient care and emergency transport. Now, I'd like to see a proactive statement where they will construct agreements that result in the closest emergency medical vehicle being dispatched, even if it's from different localities. And I don't know if you want to make that amendment between here and the floor as we go forward, but it needs to be done.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator McPike.
I'd like to also speak to the bill in regards to a little bit towards what the comments of Senator Donovan as well. I think this is touching on an underlying issue in regards to localities actually being proactive and collaborating, and some of it's turf and territory issues. Some of it is willingness to give up some level of control. I think if you looked at 911 dispatch centers and the abilities to other states to regionalize, like Phoenix, Arizona, other localities have done it quite well. There's opportunities in Hampton Roads regions that was recently, I believe, rejected to consider some multi-jurisdictional efforts when literally counties spend tens of millions of dollars to duplicate CAD 911 dispatch equipment and have to replicate that because the renewal cycle on that equipment is very expensive and it's every 10 years. There's extreme efficiency that's lost in both the economy of scale as well as, frankly, the patient care as a result of that, and transfers between 911 centers, other inefficiencies between dispatch. So I think this just scratches some of the surface. But I think the General Assembly needs to consider some incentivized framework that localities can start and incentivize their behavior at some point in time.
All right, any other comments or questions?
Move to report.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we report. Any discussion? All in favor, record on the board.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's 14-0.
All right, bill is reported. Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I brought this deadly bill back for Senator Locke, and I know you're just dying to get it over with, and I'm glad you're taking it in turn. Mr. Chairman, I do think that staff came up with a solution that will hopefully resolve this permanently with no ghastly effects.
Okay. All right. Please distribute this proposed substitute. All right, the substitute is before us. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. All right, the substitute's what we're operating off of now. Senator McDougal.
Mr. Chairman, I think substitute just very specifically defines church to include a church that operates a historic landmark, which should address the Whitestone Church issue that was addressed, that was brought to your attention, and allow them to continue to operate the cemetery while maintaining it as a historic landmark feature. And we did try to circulate this amongst the stakeholders, and I don't think this impacts any of the larger concerns that some other facilities had about the other path that we had taken it. And I think Senator Mason will be very happy that that this church will be able to continue in pristine condition going forward.
All right, any questions of the patron? All right, well, first we got to see if there's anybody wants to speak. Anybody want to speak either for or against the bill? So, all right, seeing nobody standing up, rushing to the podium, is there a motion on the bill?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll vote on the board.
That's 14-0.
All right. Okay. All right, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The
Thank
bill's
staff
reported.
for their
Yeah.
efforts in getting this
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
All right, Senator Suderline, here he comes. Quickly, pick up the pace, though.
I was hoping someone on the committee would help you out by just moving the report, but there you go. So the bill before you is Senate Bill 981. And what the bill seeks to do is something similar to what we've done in the past in some other parts of the code, which is to help military spouses that come to the Commonwealth that have a profession of their own. A few years ago, we worked to do this for teacher licensure. I told you all, I told the Education Health Committee in the Senate at the time about my mom's experience collecting 5 different state licensures. And what this bill seeks to do is do that with professions under DPOR overview. And so happy to take any questions. We've had it somewhat in the past, but if you look through the relevant lines, it's 21 through 29. It also allows the board to waive the experience requirement if they determine that the applicant has demonstrated through documentation that they actually have that experience elsewhere or sufficient for their purposes.
All right, any questions of the patron? All right. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to the bill? All right. All right, we have a motion to report in a second. Any discussion on the bill? All right, then we will vote on the board.
That's 14-0.
Mr.
All right,
Chairman,
thank you.
I
Yes.
think we were faster than him walking in. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We aim to please, so. All right, Senator Locke. Okay. Yeah.
So all of Richard's bills, the FOIA bills, came from the FOIA Council as a unanimous recommendation. I think there's a FOIA Council duty.
You can just do them.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can keep you all entertained for the next 30 minutes.
Are you sure about that?
I'm fairly certain. Okay, we can start with Senate Bill 341. Senate Bill 341 refers to the methods of procurement used for construction. Although competitive sealed bidding is still the preferred method of procurement, construction management can be used when a project is very large or complex. Recent changes to the Secretary of the Commonwealth regulations include raising the threshold for construction management use from $10 million to $26 million, as well as requiring that smaller companies be shortlisted. The bill does only one thing. It deletes the threshold amount for local public bodies. And the intent is that all local bodies will have to comply with the Secretary of the Commonwealth at 26 million. Oh, there is a substitute, right? Okay.
All right, we had a motion to adopt the substitute and a second. Any discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor say aye. All opposed, no. That's adopted. Now you're going to represent this bill, so.
Okay. The regulations in combination with this bill will help more small to medium-sized contractors compete for more projects with colleges, state and local governments, as well as save taxpayer dollars. Matt Binka and Jack Dyer with the Virginia Contractor Procurement Alliance are here to answer any questions that you may have with regard to this legislation.
All right. Any questions of the patron? All right. Anybody want to speak either in favor or in opposition to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Matt Becker with the Virginia Contractor Procurement Alliance. We support the bill. I want to thank Senator Ruff for all his work over the years in helping us with this issue, as well as Senator Locke. This is an issue that has been worked on for years now. And what this does is cleans up the one section of the code that currently will now not meet the Secretary of the Administration's regulations. So an agreement has already been reached with the governor's office and everyone else involved that the new threshold would be 26 million. The only section of the code that needed to be cleaned up was this one. I would encourage you all to think about the procurement study that was done a while back. That said one of the most important things we needed to do was to standardize our laws. So this will ensure that every governmental entity is standardized. And I would also say that especially for the locals, literally 2 months ago, the Richmond Times-Dispatch did a story, front page Sunday story, about their use of construction management. The city overspent tens of millions of dollars using construction management. So I would encourage you all to support the bill.
Any questions anybody has? All right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Jack Dyer. I'm president of the Virginia Contractor Procurement Alliance, owner of Gulf Seaboard General Contractors out of Ashland. Construction management is good for some projects that are extremely large or significantly complex, but when used on projects when competitive sealed bid would have worked better. It can cost taxpayers millions of dollars. This bill will help better define and standardize the use of construction management at all levels of government. The bill represents years of work with many people. First, I'd like to thank Senator Locke for patroning the bill, Delegate Sickles for patroning on the House side, Senator Ruff, who has worked with us for years on various bills in respect of procurement, Senator Vogel, who has worked with us, Governor Northern's office for meeting with us many times over the last couple of years, and listening carefully to what the problems are, and Secretary of Administration Connor, who personally signed off on our new regulation changes. The teamwork will help save millions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, over the years.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm Richard Thomas. I'm with the Design Build Institute of America. We can't support the bill as written today. We have a few concerns. One is the narrowing of the scope. The definition of complex project. We feel that there's a lot of complex projects out there that we're afraid that with the narrowing of this definition, that there may be complex projects that would not be available to be used under this. Our other concern is that it lies with the threshold itself. One of the growing trends we're seeing, and I'm only going to speak to design build, I won't speak to the construction management section, is the trend all across the country has been towards smaller design build projects. As local governments have gotten more authority, we've seen a lot of these projects get smaller. And we feel that that discretion should be left to the owners of those projects. We've seen design build projects as small as $250,000. And these are all going to be small projects that are going to be done by small local contractors. Nobody's coming from out of state for a $500,000 project, probably. So I'll leave it at that. And I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Yes, any questions? Senator Mason.
The gentleman may not have had the benefit of seeing the substitute, but I have a question about the substitute. So he's correct. In the original bill, you narrow complex project, you go down in A and speak to the 26 million threshold, then you speak to it again in another section A. What gave us the ability to make it a one line with no change in definition and no reference to the number?
I think the important, so first thing, no reference to the number, is that it's in the Secretary of Administration's regulations. So all state bodies, Tier 3 higher ed, local government, everyone will now refer back to the Secretary of Commonwealth's, the Secretary of Administration's regulations. So that's very important. The second thing is that every body can still use construction management for under 26 million. That's very important to understand. It just has to be a complex historical project. And that is determined by the locality. So the gentleman that just spoke against it, it's important to note that they can still do that. And the definition for those things is fairly vague. I wouldn't say, it's not overly detailed, put it that way.
Mr. Chairman, and
Senator
that
Mason.
definition is now unchanged with your substitute.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else wish to speak? All right. Senator Locke, you want to speak again, or?
I'm good.
All right.
Chairman, I would move that the bill be adopted as a substitute.
All right. Is there a second?
Passed as a
Yeah. All right. We have a motion and a second to report the bill. Any discussion? All right. Let's vote on the board.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Thank you.
And, Mr. Chairman, there are some non-committee members here, so I will let them.
All right.
present
Thank
their
you.
bills.
Senator Peterson.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, let me start with Senate Bill 209, and that is the Virginia-Korea Advisory Board. This is a concept that we've seen multiple times in this committee. We've actually passed it, and in fact, at one point, we had money in the budget for it, but it never made it through the final conference report. Just for those of you that don't live in Northern Virginia or don't live on the 9564 corridor, let me give a little bit of background. We have approximately 150,000 Korean Americans living in Virginia. It's a highly organized and very unique population. I say that because it still has connections with the Republic of Korea. We have a direct flight from Dulles to Incheon, which is the international airport for Seoul, and we generate a tremendous amount of business out of the Republic of Korea. The Republic of Korea is the 11th largest economy in the world. It's between Japan and China, which are two of the largest economies of the world. And so it gives us an incredible opportunity to leverage business. I have brought this bill before because we have people in the community that are interested in developing international trade and creating jobs in Virginia and utilizing foreign investment capital to do that. So I've got a whole list of superstars here, and I'm going to call up Sojung Lim. Sojung is a city council member in Fairfax City and business leader in Fairfax, and just ask her to speak in support.
All right. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is So Lim. As senators just spoke, I'm a city council with City of Fairfax, as well as a small business owner in the City of Fairfax. Korea today has dramatically transformed itself from the devastation and the destruction from the Korean War. In fact, South Korea has emerged as one of the 20th century's most remarkable economic success stories. And as a Korean American, I'd be remiss if I don't mention how grateful we are for the sacrifices made by U.S. military and their family members. According to the CIA report, Korea was ranked top 5th in the world for their import and export business around the world. In Virginia, South Korea was ranked 11th among Virginia export destinations for Virginia-made products such as paper, electrical machinery, essential oil, fiber, and fabric. In addition, according to the last U.S. Census, over 100,000 Korean Americans live in Virginia, which makes us 5th largest Korean American populated state in the U.S. There are over 800 internationally owned companies in Virginia. International trade continues to grow. Foreign companies offer more than 187 jobs in Virginia. Some of the notable Korean companies doing business in Virginia are Hanwha, Samsung, and Korean Aerospace. By having a Korean American Advisory Council will be helpful for the governor and its administration to, quote unquote, frankly, not to miss out a huge opportunity for an economic viability for our state. We'll be able to bring more Korean-owned businesses to Virginia. They're already establishing themselves here in the U.S. Why not bring them to Virginia? Having more opportunity to help our Virginia companies to export to Korea, bring more jobs to Virginia. U.S.-Korea trade continues to grow, and let's make sure we, Virginia, take full advantage and help our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? All right.
Mr. Chair, in the economy of time, I do have reps from Northern Virginia and around the state. If they could just come and introduce themselves.
Sure, that'd be
And obviously,
good.
we'll answer any questions you want. Daniel. Don't give a long speech.
No speech. Hello. My name is James Daniel Shen. I'm president U.S. Korean Association of the Washington, which is I live here for 45 years, and I'm supporting a Korean Advisory Board. There's a few reasons. I think let him speak to every single thing what we need to do, but I gotta additionally mention that here, Northern Virginia, Koreans, the population is not only 800,000 area, because that's the census, which is 2017. We are approximately looking at about 200,000, which is about 3 times that what their record is showing. And I would like to mention this because we are the very strong economically growing up in northern Virginia area. And a lot of what I belong to is I'm taking care of Korean immigrant people and helping between Fairfax County, the state, and we'll be translating how they can adjust in Korea from the U.S. And now the important thing is those people wants to come back here to a lot of business, but there's not many people can ask for it, what kind of job, what kind of they can support it, what kind of investment they can do. I don't think we have much people can support it except the Korean government, which is we don't know yet. So I'd like to emphasize that we need a lot of economic here. Example, Georgia. There's a Georgia Korean Advisor. They got Kia Motors. They just got the Kia Motor about a few years ago. They got 150,000 jobs and a million cars they're making so far in the economy. So what the bottom line I'm trying to tell you is Korean Advisor, you can help the Commerce Virginia state. We can help for the economy growing up, job creations. We can get a more income status. We pay more taxes, and the people that come to the United States, the American dream come true, and work hard and day and night, and we can help Commerce Virginia be a wealthy the state.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Wu, just quickly.
Hello. Thanks for giving us this opportunity. My name is Haekyung Scarlett. I'm representing Korean American Women's Chamber of Commerce from Northern Virginia. I'm so glad that they talked previously. 2 of them explained enough, and they mentioned about all the benefits. But at this point, I'd like to also think about what's the disadvantage is not having this board. It will be so good. So I strongly support our passing the Virginia Korea Advisory Board.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Tae Chang-woo, Korean American Senior Association of Virginia. I will support bill today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Se-hee Chang. I am with the Korean American Association Peninsula area. I'm a president over there. Now I am supporting this bill. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, my name is Hei Chung West. I'm living to Petersburg area, and then I'm also to Petersburg Korean American Association president, and we're living in a Foley area. Even my husband to U.S. Army, 26 years retired, and then this bill is going to be help us to the Petersburg area, especially Korean people, to grow and economically or more widely, and then or even we are more people coming from more from Korea or to settle down. So please then I support to this bill. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Taylor Lee. I'm a member of a Korean Association in Washington. So I'm highly report this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have one more. Thank you for your patience.
My name is Kim Yong-ah, Korean. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Chair, I just simply summarize. I got some other people here, but I think we've made the point. This is modeled on the U.S. and Israel Advisory Board, so same structure. We have a budget amendment in for it.
All right, thank you. All right, and this will have to go to finance, so. Technical amendment here.
Mr. Chairman, we would like to suggest a small technical amendment.
Okay.
On line 74, strike small g governor and insert capital G governor. That's line 74.
As long as you don't change Korea. Just don't change Korea word, okay.
Line amendment, do anyone want to move that? Okay, yeah.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor of the line amendment, say aye. All opposed, no. The line amendment is adopted. All right, the motion is to report and re-refer as amended, and then re-refer to Finance Committee. Any discussion? All right, vote on the board.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Ayes 15, no 0.
All right, the bill is reported and re-referred to Finance.
Mr. Chair, my next bill is Senate Bill 416, which is in the Common Interest Community Statute, and there should be a substitute if I could have that distributed. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the substitute, properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. All right, Senator Peterson, we have.
Before I waste the committee's time with this bill needs a little bit more work. I'm getting educated back here by Ms. Trigiani. Could you?
Really?
You're not the first.
I'm not the first. Could you take this by for the week? And I apologize.
Yes, we will pass it by for the week. So.
Please. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Senator Stanley. We don't have anybody else in the room now, so we'll even take you. So.
Wow, sorry to force that on you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just to reiterate, I'd asked that Senate Bill 905 and 906 go by for the week.
We've already taken care of that.
Great. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, if we can take up Senate Bill 773.
Senate Bill 773.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 773 basically parrots what we're doing in Southwest and Southside Virginia with what's called the Crooked Road. Many of you have voted for the establishment of the Crooked Road Trail, which recounts the history, of course, but also venues and tourist destinations connected with bluegrass music, which is, of course, a part of our rich heritage down there. There's also a part of our rich heritage, which is stock car racing. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, part of the beginnings of stock car racing were born out of fun for those that ran illicit untaxed whiskey through our areas into North Carolina. Those drivers were not only skilled drivers on the roads and back roads of our area, but also when they weren't running moonshine, they then started up a stock car competition and would race each other. That has grown into what we know now as NASCAR. But what we have in Southside and Southwest Virginia, but not just there, all over the Commonwealth of Virginia, whether it be in Manassas all the way through Franklin County, South Boston, is we have some pretty important tracks. It's what we call short tracks mostly. You know, of course, Martinsville Speedway hosts 2 races a year. It's like having 2 Super Bowls in our area. It attracts 75,000 people to our area each race and is a boost for our economy. These are destination areas, and especially the historic smaller tracks, where you see ladies and gentlemen who drive cars that they fix up and work on in their own backyard or in the garage. I sponsor one such racer, and the funny thing is I put my Stanley Law Group sticker behind his car, and he keeps getting hit. So I don't know if that's the person behind him doesn't like me or doesn't like lawyers, but that's one bit of advertising that has not worked out perfectly for me yet. I'm still working on it. But this is what this would do is create, over time, the ability for us all, anyone who wants to come to Virginia and enjoy the rich history of where stock car racing began, and certainly enjoy the small towns that grew around it and that still survive. This would be helpful for our economy. It would highlight and raise the profile of a very rich racing and sports heritage. I will close by saying one of the greatest race car drivers who ever came out of Southside Virginia was Wendell Scott, who was the Jackie Robinson of NASCAR who broke the color barrier. And we honored him and his family with a center aisle presentation in the state Senate. We have now named part of Route 29 in Danville after him. It's important that we remember that history along with the history of this great sport, and that's the bill.
Are there any questions of the patron? Anybody want to speak either in favor or opposed to the bill?
Second.
All right. There's a motion and a second to report the bill. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we'll do it on the board. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
That's 15, no 0.
Nobody can hang with my stuff. I'm the best there ever was. That's from Ricky Bobby, of course.
All right. What was the vote on that? 15 aye, 0 noes. The bill is reported. And we hope not to hear you sing Thunder Road on the floor of the Senate. So,
Only if my voice gets better will I attempt it. I promise you that. Senate Bill 829 is by request. This actually, so we have agencies, of course, within the executive branch that license professionals. And what this does is empower His Excellency with the authority, where appropriate, to reinstate any person that has had their professional license revoked by that agency. There would be in this bill, if passed, that the governor would establish that process by which such a restoration would occur, and the executive branch agencies would assist the governor in the administration of such process. And that's the bill.
All right, are there any questions of the patron? All right, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak either in favor or opposed to the bill?
Jim Morrissey was here to speak in favor of it, but I don't see him.
All right, is there
Hey, I'm his lawyer. What do you want?
all right, if there's no one wishes to speak on the bill, and there were no questions of the patron, is there, I haven't seen any other people. All right, is there any discussion on the committee or a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. So we just talked for like 5 minutes on a NASCAR board, and this one went by pretty quickly. Can you tell me what we're trying to accomplish or what we're doing differently or how it's done today or how it came to your attention, sir?
Mr. Chairman, I'd answer the gentleman by saying I believe that's attorney-client privilege. But seriously, what we have here is, though, if you've seen the professional agencies under the executive branch that administer professional licenses, there are times where, quite frankly, the suspension, revocation of that license occurs where, over time, quite frankly, they play favorites or they don't have their favorites. And what we're trying to do is to create another avenue by which a restoration process can take place for a profession that is governed by the executive branch. So it offers another avenue. But I think, you see it in the same way. It's not just some easy way of somebody who's been bad, let's say, in one profession or another, just to say, well, got my license taken, I'll just go to the governor and get it back. I think when you have the governor develop policies and administer those policies would be administered fairly in the same way that we talk about the governor's executive power to grant clemency and the like.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Question for the
Senator
patron?
Boysko.
Question for the patron.
I thought there were no questions. This is good.
Senator, could you give us any examples of where someone has been dismissed or let go and this was in need, this policy was in need for the governor to reinstate them?
Sure. I could.
Would you
If you can, please do.
Mr. Chair, I would ask that Senator Stanley share with us some examples so that we can understand why we would need to give the governor this authority?
Sure. I think, well, let's just say a lawyer. Let's say that lawyer has their license revoked. Let's say that's an excellent lawyer who does excellent work for the poor. Let's say that lawyer hypothetically has had maybe a run-in or two, or has probably an agency that's not really hyped up to want to do that again or give them the license back. And that, I am reminded, Mr. Chairman and Senator Boysko, that I like to say, all of those who are lawyers, that if you think there's politics up here in Richmond, go to a bar meeting. I mean, there's really a lot of things that can affect one's professional license that has nothing to do with your actions or errors or omissions. And so those kind of things can be baked in the cake that can work against very good professionals. So in those instances where, in a special circumstance, I don't think this is just some regular check the box and you get your license back, but in those circumstances that the governor reserves for himself the authority over an agency of which the branch that he runs manages, and that he can then determine for himself under a case-by-case basis, as we give him the authority to do in other matters, like I said, like clemency and otherwise, to make a decision to reinstate somebody who would otherwise maybe not have that opportunity because of a structure which is perhaps biased against that person for one reason or another. And that's purely hypothetical.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Vogel.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to inquire if somebody from the administration is here, if the governor's office actually has a position on this bill.
Apparently no one.
There you go.
All right. Senator Stanley, do the agencies or the people who have licenses, do the agencies to which that are regulated by, do they offer opportunities for seeking reinstatement?
Mr. Chairman, I would tell you that yes, they do. But some of them are draconian in their application.
Yes, Senator Donovan.
So it is no surprise to Senator Stanley that I'm an advocate that our professional boards actually, while there may be flaws, do a very good job and understand the accountability that is necessary for their professional license and thereby self-regulate. And so maybe there's an opportunity for something like this, but I think this is not the year to do so rashly. And with great love and respect, I move to PBI this bill.
Second.
All right.
Whoa. I mean, I haven't seen so many seconds since my overweight uncle came to Thanksgiving. I mean, I've never seen. Wow. You all slow it down a little bit. Let's consider this a little bit more deliberately. Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments, discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I think I got a chance here. I really do. I'm feeling good. Feeling good about this.
All right, so there is a motion to PBI, properly seconded. So if there's no further discussion or questions, we will vote on the board on the motion to PBI.
Thank you, Reevesy.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The yeas are 14, the nays are 1. The bill is PBI, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Where's the committee?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, passing on a message from Senator Stewart, who is in Judiciary. He asked that the committee strike SB 141. And he also asked that SB 333 move the substitute, and then, which would make it a study, and move it to DHCH.
Yeah. Senator Bell, do you want to make the motion to strike 141?
So moved.
All right, sir. All right, any discussion? All in favor of striking 141, vote on the board. Does anyone have Senator McBikes?
Ayes 14, no 0.
Yeah. All right, ayes 14, noes 0. So that bill is stricken. And what was the second?
Mr. Chairman, it's SB 333, and he would like to move the substitute. So moved.
Second.
What do we substitute?
Mr. Chairman, the substitute makes it a study, and that's why it would move it over to DHCH.
They're against that.
And they're passing it out right now.
Okay. All right, a motion and a second to adopt the substitute. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, the ayes have it. Substitute is before us.
Mr. Chairman, I can't say that I'm very familiar with this. I think Mr. Andrew Clark might be. But the idea was, instead of moving forward with putting this into code, was to slow down a bit, do some study first, and see where that goes. But I would, if
Andrew.
Yes. Julia Hammond on behalf of Stafford County. Stafford did want to move forward on this quickly. But thanks to the Council of Fire Chiefs and Marshals and some others, we think maybe we'll just slow it down a little bit and work on study. We actually are having some conversations in the hallway, too, about there might be other amendments to calmly handle this as we move forward.
All right, what's before us is a Section 1 bill that would direct the Department of Housing and Community Development to convene stakeholders to address the issues raised by the original bill. So any questions, further discussion on things? All right, okay, report a substitute?
Second.
Okay, second. All right, it's been moved and seconded that we report the substitute. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll vote on the board.
Ayes 15, no zero.
All right, that Section 1 bill is reported. All right, Senator Lewis.
Senate Bill 780, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, this is an this is an immunity bill, and I'm looking at the panel, and I think I'm lucky that I only have one lawyer on here. So, the bill is fairly straightforward. I think what it seeks to do, I know what it seeks to do. It seeks to extend to campgrounds the same immunity privileges that we've already extended to the agritourism industry, we'll call it, equine activities, and skiing in other sections of the code. I was unaware of the skiing piece of it, but that too has its assumption of risk exemption in 8.01 227.19. And simply put, what we're also trying to do is seek parity with federal and state parks in Virginia, which are obviously in competition with our campgrounds, but also have a level of immunity associated with them because of their unique nature as state and federal facilities. I would direct your attention to line 36, paragraph D, and then the 1, 2, and 3 under that, which specifically point out those cases in which the immunity afforded to campground employees and campground officials would not apply, and that is intentional torts, that is intentionally causing the death, injury, or death or injury or property of another, willful or wanton activity without due regard to the safety of others or property of others, and then also failure to warn when the owners are aware of a dangerous or inherently dangerous activity. So again, it's something we've done before. I know some people don't like to extend immunity, but we have done it before. We're not plowing new ground here, and we have some folks from some campgrounds or from a campground who would like to speak to the committee about that.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Reeves.
This is strictly to private or public and private campgrounds? It doesn't specify in the code unless I'm missing the code section.
Privately owned campgrounds, yeah.
Does it specify that somewhere, anywhere, Counselor?
I don't know what a public campground, I'm not quite sure what they're private campgrounds that are owned privately but open to the public.
Mr. Chairman, can Counselor maybe answer my question if there's a delineation within the code that states under camping, quote camping, if that applies strictly to private, or could it potentially include our public campgrounds?
I don't see anything in the bill that's before us. I'd have to look more into Title 35.1 for a moment. Give me a second.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Reeves.
Mr. Chairman, I'm fine with that waiting. I just wanted to know so we're not wrapping up the state parks in that.
I think, Mr. Chairman, Senator Reeves, I think the state parks have the benefit of the state's immunity, I think, and that's one of the points I was making in my opening comments. The private campgrounds want the ability to have that same kind of immunity protection.
Senator Evan, did you have?
I was going to talk about sovereign immunity too, but I did have a question of the patron. I don't know if you want me to wait till after the witnesses.
No, if you have a question, you can
Okay.
answer.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Senator Lewis, under this bill, if there was a campground that had a wooden path or a path over a stream or something, or rocks, and it was worn away and ready to break, would they be immune, or would they put up a sign if it was in such disrepair?
Yeah, I think under Section D, paragraph 3, if you look at that, Senator Evan, I believe that may answer the question you're posing.
Thank you.
All right, are there any further questions? All right, anybody to speak in favor of the bill?
Thank you. My name is Emily Peck. I'm the executive director of the Virginia Campground Association. We have 69 members. This bill would not only help our members, but every campground in the state. We're looking for, as you said, protection for inherent risks of camping, as well as parity with the state parks. We are not in competition with state parks. There's plenty of business to go around for everyone. We just want the same protection. 77% of campgrounds in Virginia are privately owned. And we also come here with support from the Virginia Professional Paddlers Association as well.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Okay. Next, speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Geddick. I am the Vice President of Virginia Campground Association and also the owner of Jellystone Park in Gloucester, Virginia. Ask that you support this so that we do have some protection against, we're talking about minor incidents like when someone gets bit by a bee or things that are inherent to outdoor activities, that the campgrounds are protected from such things. It's not for protecting negligence. As you were talking about, if obviously if we have a footbridge or something that is in disrepair, that is something that we are required to take care of, and we're not looking to not be covered for negligent, just on things that are inherent to the outdoor activity.
Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Kim Husky. I'm here with Sherrystone Family Camping Resort on the Eastern Shore of Virginia. This bill deals with inherent risks. This is when a camper comes to a campground, they are aware of the inherent risks of camping. They don't expect paved sidewalks. They don't expect street lighting over their tents. They know that if they trip on a tree root, that is an inherent risk of camping. This bill does not specify private campgrounds. There was a time after this bill was submitted that there was some conversation that it could also apply to state parks. There was an Attorney General's ruling that said state parks are covered by sovereign immunity, but this bill would basically give private campgrounds parity with state and federal parks.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Robert Melvin with the Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. And for the reasons you have just heard, we are supporting the measure as well and ask you to support it. Thank you.
All right, anyone else wish to speak on this, either for or against? All right, we have a motion to report and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll vote on the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank the committee.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill is reported. All right, we do have a request for reconsideration on Senate Bill 333, which is the Section 1 bill that we did on behalf of Senator Stewart, who is not here. Does anyone want to make a motion to reconsider the vote by which we passed that? All right, it's been moved and seconded to reconsider the vote by which we passed Senate Bill 333. Any discussion? All right, we vote. Is this a voice vote or a recorded vote? Recorded vote. All right, on the board.
Ayes 15, no zero.
All right, we are now going to reconsider that. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the substitute that we have for Senate Bill 333?
I believe that would be me, sir. Mr. Chair, Senators, thank you. My name is Linda Hale. I have the privilege of being the Chief Fire Marshal for Loudoun County. So part of the concern with this has much to do with ADA and basic accessibility. The question that we have asked all along is, do we really have a problem with our locks today? Are we really using the resources that we have available? Currently, locks on exit doors have to be installed at certain heights. They have to be able to have certain maneuvers. It doesn't need to be able to have a tight grasp, tight pitching, movement of the wrist. It is one motion, no different than you would have coming out of your hotel room. You have the ability to be able to lock your door as soon as it closes. You then turn the lock. You're then able to exit with one motion, although you have two locks engaged with that. Egress doors have to be readily opened from the egress side without the use of a key or special knowledge or effort. This is designed so that in places of mass havoc, when panic sets in, the people are able to egress out safely. People that are panicked, people that have disabilities, people that may be at a disadvantage. We want to be able to assure that they have their own ability to maintain their own personal safety. The current locks that we have meet these particular requirements. There are code compliant locks that meet basic accessibility that are specifically for being able to lock a door so that people that mean to do harm, bad people, can't come in. We don't need to be able to go down a lesser expensive, quite frankly, a cheaper route to be able to then install locks because that aren't code compliant, that ultimately take special knowledge or are much more complicated, or someone in a wheelchair would not be able to reach, or someone that may be height deprived may not be able to get up to. So these are problems with some of the barricade and or temporary locking devices that we have seen. They don't meet basic accessibility. They don't meet the ADA federal requirements. And we do have devices today that you can install or have installed that do meet all of these particular requirements. The bill isn't necessary. We need to be able to install the code compliant locks to allow people to safely flee when they are able to flee and be able to lock the door when they need to be able to lock the door, not reevaluate it and put in additional constraints that could lock good people in. And when the good guys do show up, we can't get in. Those are our problems. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this?
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Fry-Weaver. I'm the Director and Vice President of Education, Certification, and Technical Activities for the Door and Hardware Institute. We are an association that operates in Virginia. We're housed in Virginia. I live in Charlottesville, just down the road. And I train people in our industry to protect people in code-compliant manners around the opening. The bill that is being proposed seeks to protect from only one type of hazard, generally active shooter security issues, but building safety always needs to consider all types of hazards. I actually sit on the NFPA 3000 Technical Committee, which is the active shooter hostile response standard. So I work in several code development communities, and always a multiple approach is always what's considered. Free, immediate, and unobstructed egress that Chief Hale talked about is one of the fundamental code requirements in public buildings. It's found in old and new building code requirements, in the building code, fire code, life safety code. It's in national, local, and state codes, including Virginia. It's also found in OSHA regulations to protect employees from employers locking them in buildings, and it's found in ADA law so that everybody, no matter their abilities, is able to egress in a building in an emergency. And all of those codes were developed because of tragedies that we've lived in our past here in the U.S. The Iroquois Theater, where 602 people died, Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, where 146 people died, Coconut Grove nightclub, where 492 people died, all because doors were either locked or obscured or made unavailable. There's actually a documentary that just came out called 6 Locked Doors based on the Coconut Grove fire. So if you're interested in understanding what a locked door and a means of egress can do in emergency, that shows us just that. We continue to see deaths regardless of the codes, because of, we saw in Happy Land Social Club in the Bronx, where 87 people died, Imperial Foods Processing Plant, where 25 people died in North Carolina, where employees were held liable for actually securing openings and preventing egress. Just last month in Las Vegas, there was a fire in an apartment building. A couple of weeks prior, they had reported a barricade device on the door to the management, and subsequently a fire happened and 6 people died. What we know that when exits are blocked or locked, people die, and there's code-compliant locks that can be used that allow for people to leave buildings. Secondary supplementing locking devices, which is what this code is proposing, that prevent egress and limit ingress. Chief Hale talked about the inability for first responders to be able to get in and help people when these devices are on doors. So that makes people who are in buildings exposed to other hazards like fires. There's still over 100,000 fires each year in public buildings. And bomb threats, sexual assault, bullying, fights, other victimizations. The NFPA 3000 Technical Committee that I talked about, one of their chief concerns in active shooter or hostile events is death by fire or people using fire as a weapon in buildings. So we know that that's happened. We saw in school shootings, people bringing incendiary devices, and so that secondary hazards might occur. We do know that we have problems with glass and glass in doors, glass beside doors. When we've seen these kind of events happen, it's almost always a weak point in an opening, and these barricade devices protect us in no way against the failure of glass. So it then gives people false security that they're secure behind these openings when glass is easily broken. So we'd be better in an effort to protect things like that than to introduce these supplemental locking devices that will likely put us in greater danger.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Bonnie Atwood. I'm registered to lobby for the Fire Prevention Association and the Volunteer Firefighters Association. I was also given authorization to speak against this bill for the arson investigators today. I'm against it for two big reasons. One is the fear that people will be trapped on the other side of the first responders, and that has been addressed. The other is I've looked at all the locks I could find. I cannot find any that are ADA compliant. And I've had someone ask me, well, in an emergency, can't you just, it's a few minutes. Doesn't the ADA allow for an exception during an emergency, such as a shooter? And the answer is no. Under Title III, Section 36.211, there's only one instance in which you can just let go of the ADA requirement, and that is if the door is under repair. There is no exception for emergency. I have a letter which is long. I'm not going to read it. It's from a mother whose daughter was killed at Sandy Hook. She agrees that these barricade locks are not wise. Her daughter has autism and so is very concerned about ADA. My son also has autism. My son has great difficulty with fine motor skills. And it is my fear that he would be on the other side of a door and a first responder would need to get to him. The history of shooters, as alarming as it is, and I totally understand the desire and the intent of this bill, but the history is the shooters go down the hall really fast. They don't spend time on one door. If a door is hard to open, they move on. They are interested in killing as many people as they can. That's the history. That's the way it is. So I think we should not support this bill.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you, Chairman.
My name is Jerry Heppies. I am the CEO of the Door Security and Safety Foundation, which is an organization dedicated to advancing both life safety and security through properly designed and built door openings. The foundation was started and funded because of the proliferation of poorly designed, constructed, and maintained door openings, which play a critical role in both life safety and security. We use education to advance our mission. We've been in existence for over 20 years. We are domiciled in the state of Virginia, and I live in Charlottesville as well. We've conducted education for the fire marshal community, the education community, and the healthcare community. Why do we do this? Because lives are at stake if the balance between life safety and security is not properly maintained. We participate in the codes and standards development process as subject matter experts, which is a tried and true process that debates these types of issues across the country on a national basis, and then local communities and states and jurisdictions accept those, review those particular codes and standards for their local jurisdictions. But that effort to maintain life safety and security is always the heart of those types of codes and standards process. As was mentioned earlier, just last month, due to a decision made to barricade an exit door in a high crime area of a motel in Las Vegas, 6 people could not get out of the door and perished in a fire. They actually died trying to exit the rear door, which was barricaded for crime reasons. And it had been pulled off a month earlier, but someone felt that it was still an unsafe area and they added it back in, and it cost 6 people their lives. The lesson is simple. There are simple, affordable solutions that would have maintained a high level of security while affording life safety at the same time. Locks and door opening assemblies are built to do this constantly. So you see what is at stake. And as noted earlier, our country has a tried and true system of code development for balancing life safety and security. New codes are developed typically after the loss of life occurs. Currently, the debate on active shooters has been raging for quite some time in the codes and standards world to try to determine what to do. But in no instance have any of the ICC codes or NFPA codes accepted the use of barricade devices. So why would we do that in the state of Virginia? We have a sad phenomenon in our country referred to as active shooters. It's happening in schools, religious institutions, office buildings, and on campuses. Virginia Tech was one of the worst, where the shooter, Virginia Tech, barricaded the doors. She chained the exit devices and prevented first responders from getting into the building. There's a strong desire to do something to fix the problem, this feeling of we have to do something. Unfortunately, a lot of dangerous ideas and solutions are developed and are justified as, well, it's better than nothing. That's simply wrong and dangerous. Just ask the people in the Las Vegas fire. It is the goal of us all to assure that we remain cognizant of the bigger picture when considering changes to the laws and codes, including other mandates from the General Assembly and federal legislation like the American with Disabilities Act and the nationally recognized model codes like the ICC and NFPA. And I can assure you those groups are addressing this active shooter phenomenon. Fortunately, current solutions do work, and albeit we must continue to improve the maintenance, but we do have time as a state to react. What do I mean by current solutions are working? In the example of the active shooter, it remains a fact that doors that are lockable and compliant with current codes have and will continue to save lives. Persons with an intention of inflicting mass harm to occupants are not penetrating locked doors with code-compliant locks. The focus in the future should be on funding the effort to maintain door openings through ongoing inspections, to ensure they are code compliant, and to consider investing in better existing code compliant solutions. Unfortunately, this legislation will not be effective but harmful. Preventing both ingress and egress of those who feel threatened is not the correct solution. Lastly, I'll submit for the testimony a letter from Security Industry Association, as I kind of focused on the fact that there's life safety and security, and the Security Industry Association also has taken a stand against these devices. And in one of the most popular used guidelines, the PASS document, they take a very strong stand against barricade devices. Why would we want to change that in Virginia?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Andrew Clark with the Home Builders Association of Virginia. We don't have any stake in this. I was passing along a message, I guess, from the patron being involved in the code discussion process. Obviously, the original proposal was to implement a code change. The substitute, after extensive discussions, as you can tell from the testimony from the previous speakers, it's a very sensitive subject. It's a very important subject. It's a very complicated subject. It really belongs in the Board of Housing, which promulgates the building codes and fire codes for the state. And so we don't have a position on the bill, but just wanted to clarify that the substitute that I believe was put forward was to send this to the technical work group of individuals to have further discussion. Thank you.
Actually, Mr. Clark, the substitute is actually a little different from that. It's a Section 1 bill, and it directs DHCD to convene stakeholders representing entities that enforce.
So I believe that would be, and I defer to Julie, I think DHCD is the entity which houses Board of Housing and have those discussions about.
This is also very similar to a study you passed a year ago, 2 years ago. It was Senator Hanger's bill that originally just dealt with one small portion of this, that there was a report that came from it. A lot of these questions were left unanswered, which is why we're coming back, trying to continue that discussion further. It isn't trying to put them in any place right now.
All right, there's been a motion to report the substitute. Is there further discussion? All right, we'll vote on the board then, so.
Ayes 15, no 0.
All right, it is reported, and we'll move on now, so thank you. Senator Obenshain.
Chairman, members of the committee, I have Senate Bill 701 and 703, and no substitute, just handout material. I ran into one of your members on the way over here who said, I looked at these bills and I just do not understand. And I want to give you a little bit of background as to why I put these bills in. I represent Warren County, and Warren County has been going through the aftermath of probably the largest public embezzlement in Virginia history. Somewhere perhaps north of $20 million has disappeared, been misappropriated, allegedly, from the EDA, which consisted of loan funds, funds that the county and the town of Front Royal may be on the hook for. The director of the Economic Development Authority has been in jail, has been out, maybe is back in jail. The sheriff of Warren County was allegedly embroiled in this scandal, and tragically, his well-loved sheriff somehow got embroiled in it and committed suicide last year. It is a tragedy of huge proportions. There's a lot that has yet to unfold. We're trying not to get ahead of ourselves, but there are some things that are very clear, and that is that we need to do a better job of making sure that local boards and board members and local appointed and hired officials understand what the rules and their responsibilities are, understand the obligations under the Conflict of Interest Act, understand that the responsibilities under the Freedom of Information Act. And we also believe that there needs to be some more transparency, even on these boards, by the members and by the directors who are appointed and hired. Senate Bill 701 is an extension of a bill that I carried last year that dealt with expanding the conflict of interest and Freedom of Information Act training that was available. And last year we expanded that to cover local government officials and to require additional training. This expands it further to cover members of economic development authorities and their directors. The conflict of interest training it's well-developed training that county attorneys provide, and it's available online through a state portal that is provided to local government officials. It also requires Freedom of Information Act training, and all of this is intended not just to add a burden, but to help them avoid transgressing the lines that have been established. These are citizen members who often have had little exposure to the responsibilities and burdens that come with these positions. They perhaps need a little bit of assistance in understanding what's at stake. And this case in Front Royal and Warren County just really highlights in a dramatic way that these are not just do-nothing boards. These are boards and commissions that carry with them huge potential liabilities that have the potential to ruin lives and have long-standing impacts in communities. So 701 is simply the Conflict of Interest and Statement of the Economic Interest Act. Requires the training. It does not impose a penalty. It simply makes it clear that the training is required and requires records to be kept of it.
Any questions for the patron? Yes, Senator Mason.
Man, this was just astounding. I mean, this article is frightening. But we have a hard time getting some folks to do this in local areas. I chaired the Local Economic Development Authority in Williamsburg. So the training's online, so that's good. It can be done quickly, I guess a year or two. Conflict of Interest Act. Do you have to lay out your life for the public like you and I do?
Well, that is the next bill.
Oh,
703.
So I like that even less.
I don't know. I hope you love them both. And 702 or 701 deals with the training.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
Any further questions? All right. Is there anyone to speak in favor of or opposition to this?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, Megan Ryan with the Virginia Coalition for Open Government. We enthusiastically, can't say it, but I am very excited about this bill. I have been following this case as the senator just laid out. It also involved indictments of the entire County Board of Supervisors that were ultimately dropped. But I think to speak to Senator Mason's point briefly about this is a lot of boards that do have a lot of citizen members, and that's precisely why we do need this training, because many of them are coming in with business backgrounds and an expectation that you can do things in confidence or quickly without having to involve the public. And so they just need to kind of have this opportunity to put on the brakes and show them that there are procedures that they are supposed to be following. So thank you for bringing this bill.
All right, any questions? All right. Next.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mark Hickman on behalf of the Virginia Press Association. We also strongly support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in opposition to the bill? All right, Senator. All right, we have a motion and a second to report the bill. Any further discussion? All in favor? We will vote on the board. So.
Glad to be talking about a First Amendment issue.
Ayes 15-0.
The motion passes 15 ayes and 0 nays, so the bill is reported.
Now, Senate Bill 703, to Senator Mason's point, this does involve requiring conflict of interest statements for the executive director and members of the Economic Development Authority. And this case really does highlight the importance of this because there are allegedly some pretty significant conflicts of interest that have arisen, have been brought to light, that would have, I believe, been apparent had conflict of interest, statements of economic interest been submitted by these members or particularly by the director of the EDA. And yes, I do know that these are individuals, members of the community who are being asked to do a service for their community. These economic development authorities, they carry such tremendous liability. They involve often the investment of millions of dollars of public money for projects that could very easily give rise to significant conflicts of interest among members of the Economic Development Authority, possibly even more so than members of city councils or boards of supervisors because of the lack of sunlight that does shine on some of these transactions. So we think that this is an important measure. And again, it is, just we're trying not to make too many assumptions about what could have prevented what happened in Warren County or Front Royal. However, this is one that we really believe could have made a real difference.
All right, are there any questions of the patron?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator
So
Mason.
is this an all or nothing, the form that all right, so I get, who do you work for? Do you invest in local businesses? What interests do you have in business? I get it. But lay out your entire stock portfolio for us and let us know how much you're worth. Is it all or nothing like we do? Or is there a middle step that you can get to your very important point without saying I own X amount of IBM?
This would be the same disclosure that is required already of members of the governing body of each local government and school board members. So it's the same as those officers. I mean, this is in a different section from us. This deals with local government officials, and that framework is already established.
Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator
would
Mason.
our council staff know if that's a lesser, and if you, I don't know.
I see somebody who might know.
Mr. Chairman, Stuart Petto, Executive Director of the Virginia Ethics Council. To answer your question, it's essentially the same form as filled out by you, Senator, and it's equivalent to what is filled out by city council, elected city council members and school board members.
Any other questions? Anybody to speak in favor of the bill or opposed to the bill? All right. We have a motion. Is there a second? All right. We have a motion and a second to report the bill. Is there any further discussion? All right. We will vote on the board.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much.
All right. Ayes 15, no 0. The bill is reported. Are there any other non-committee members who have bills to present? Mamie, why don't you go back?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now we'll now go to Senate Bill 877, which you heard last year, and it made it all the way to the House floor. Okay. This transfers operational responsibilities of the Office of the Secretary of Technology to the Secretary of Administration and responsibilities related to commercialization and entrepreneurial support to the Secretary of Commerce and Trade. I don't have any substitutes or anything for this one, right? Secretary Connor is here to answer any questions if you have any with regard to this.
All right, does anybody have any questions?
We did this already. Move to report.
Wait a second. You're getting a little ahead of me here. So. Yeah, you can come on up. You can come on up. Any questions of the secretary? So. All right. Certainly. Anybody in opposition to or in favor of the bill wants to speak?
Is there another body?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kiana Connor, Secretary of Administration. The administration supports this bill.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments that anybody would like to make? All right. It's before us. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll vote on the board.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. That bill is reported. Next.
Okay, we have Senate Bill 881. And this bill creates the Historical African American Cemeteries and Graves Fund and provides that any funds that are appropriated to the Department of Historic Resources but not used for the maintenance of graves, in particular the listed historical African American cemeteries, shall be deposited in the fund. It authorizes the director of the department to manage and administer the fund and to disperse monies in the fund to maintain additional graves that have been certified by the department and documented in the department's cultural resources database.
Any questions of the patron?
Amendments? Okay, there are some
amendments. Oh,
yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Let's have the amendments first. And
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
get to you.
amendments.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 136, the introduced bill, after D, strike and insert a qualified. Second Amendment on line 137, after cemetery, strike and its, and insert associated. And finally, on line 137, after graves, insert and graves certified by the department and documented in the department's cultural resources database.
All right, is there a motion on the line amendments?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Those were adopted.
Second.
All right, did I ask? I don't know whether they did, but anybody wish to speak in favor or in opposition to this?
Thank you, Senator Locke. Chairman Barker, members of the committee, Matt Strickler with Governor Northam's office, Secretary of Natural Resources. The administration supports the bill.
Thank you. All right. If there's no one else, is there a motion?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to report the bill. Any further discussion? All in, vote on the board, so. This is as amended.
Ayes 15, no 0.
All right, that bill is reported with amendments.
Next, Mr. Chairman, I have Senate Bill 883, which establishes the Virginia Council on Environmental Justice, which will consist of 24 members to advise the governor and provide recommendations intended to protect vulnerable communities from disproportionate impacts of pollution and provide such communities meaningful involvement in the decision-making process. The bill provides that 18 members of the council are appointed by the governor and 6 are specified cabinet secretaries. The bill has an expiration date of July 1st, 2023, and there is a substitute.
All right, could you distribute the substitute, please?
Thank you.
Senator Locke, can you discuss any substantive changes to the in the substitute?
I will have someone do that for me.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Chairman, the substitute takes care of a few problems. The first is it removes the sunset provision. Second, it expands the council from the 24 members in the original introduced version to 27, and includes language talking about specific groups that should be represented on the council, including American Indian tribes, community-based organizations, the public health sector, civil rights institutions, higher education, and a couple others.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Is there anybody in support or opposition to the bill?
I should have just mentioned the administration supports the bill.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Somebody coming up, Senator Lott.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bob Shippey with the Sierra Club, and we support this bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Ann Achilles with the James River Association, and we also support the bill.
Mr. Chairman, Jay Ford, Chesapeake Bay Foundation, and we enthusiastically support this bill.
Mr. Chairman, Kim Jermaine with Virginia LCV, we support the bill.
Mr. Chairman, Peter Anderson with Appalachian Voices. We
Kendall Crawford, Virginia Interfaith Power and Light. We enthusiastically also support the bill.
Good afternoon. Steve Fishback, Virginia Poverty Law Center. We've worked very closely with the governor's office on this bill. There are a few other tweaks we'd like to see, but we're assured that that'll happen, and we therefore very enthusiastically support the bill.
Chelsea Barnes, on behalf of the Southern Appalachian Mountain Stewards, we strongly support the bill.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Is there a motion?
Enthusiastically move to report.
All right.
Enthusiastically second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. Any further discussion? All right. Vote on the board. Okay.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Ayes 14, noes 1. The bill is reported.
Finally, Mr. Chairman, I have Senate Bill 980, which exempts the officers and employees of the Fort Monroe Authority from the provisions and requirements of the Virginia Personnel Act. And I will have the Executive Director of the Fort Monroe Authority, Glenn Oder, come up and enthusiastically tell you why.
Welcome.
It's good to see everybody. Glenn Oder from the Fort Monroe Authority. I won't take much of your time. This simply clarifies that the Fort Monroe Authority employees are not part of the Virginia Employment, provisions of the Virginia Employment Act, adds it to the other authorities that are already listed in legislation. I hope you'll pass the bill.
Any questions of the patron or the witness? All right. Discussion or motion?
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. The bill be reported. Any further discussion? All right. We will vote on the board.
Ayes 15, no 0.
The bill is reported.
I am done.
All right. Thank you. Senator Eben, did you want to make a motion? Yeah.
Yes. We wanted to move first off. I have one bill I'd like to strike, which is SB 23.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on the proposal to strike the bill? All right. Vote on the board, please. All right.
And then we have 3 additional motions, and I think that one of them, Senator Boysko's bill. One is SB 868. We'd like to take that by for the week, if we may.
All right. It's a motion to pass it by for the week. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That passes.
And then Sarah McClellan, I don't think, is on this committee. Oh, she's here. I apologize. So she may have other bills. Do you have,
They've already gone by for the week.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Thanks.
So did you want to make that motion, or do you want?
Oh, yes. So, Mr. Chair, I would move that, or I would ask, I'm not on the committee, so I would ask that Senate Bill 66 go by for the week.
All right. Is there a second? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That is by for the week. So,
Thank you.
Senator Boysko.
Mr. Chairman, I have SB 159, which also goes with these bills, and I also request that we take it by for the week.
All right. Is that a motion? Second. All right. A motion and a second to pass the bill by for the week. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. All right, that passes as well. All right. I think Senator Reeves had one. Great.
And the housing part. Well, for the housing, I didn't know this. We don't normally include housing for veterans. We've had housing veterans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bring the committee's attention to Senate Bill 753. Mr. Chairman, 753 is a bill to ensure that we have a continued commitment to our Virginia National Guard, especially through their response with regard to emergency response pay. During our state emergencies, the governor calls up the National Guard, and guardsmen are brought up on a temporary state employees at a very low rate. You guys have heard this bill before. The challenge with the bill last time was in the House appropriations. The monies for this bill are in the governor's proposed budget, but I wanted to go through a little bit of history, if I could, just so everybody understands how hard our Guard works for us. And this is also a JLC priority, but since January 2014, the Virginia National Guard has mobilized nearly almost 2,600 personnel on state active duty to respond to hurricanes, winter storms, flooding, and they're only given about 12 hours to report for emergency response duty. Even during the Unite the Right protest in 17, guardsmen stood side by side with the state police in a very stressful and challenging conditions, and they were woefully undercompensated compared to their counterparts in law enforcement. So here's the reality of what this bill does. Guardsmen often lose pay while on ER, emergency response duty, forced to take vacation time, or leave without pay. Most employers in the Commonwealth don't supplement the pay. Current pay amounts are determined by the Department of Defense pay tables. So an E1, that's a basic soldier coming in, earns about $89 per day before taxes, on which a 12-hour shift equals about $7.48, less than the federal minimum wage. Compared to active duty, all pay while on emergency response orders are taxed, and guardsmen do not receive hazard pay, separation pay, to name a few. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this bill would go alongside the governor's proposed budget that he has. I do have some folks from the National Guard if you have any technical questions, but we just need to make sure we're taking care of our guardsmen, especially in lieu of all the emergency responses they get, and that would bring them some parity. The other issue that I don't have in my talking points, but I'll bring up, is we've got a real challenge of holding and retaining our guardsmen because of the multiple deployments and ways to entice some of our guardsmen to stay with us. They're going to North Carolina, West Virginia, and other places because of pay and some of these other issues. So if we want to continue to have a fit, fighting, and ready to go force for us, especially in emergencies, we've got to do some things for this organization, or we're going to start losing our shirt on them. So that's the bill, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any questions?
Does this have to go upstairs?
What's that?
Go to finance?
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, real quick, do you have the chart? The chart, you mentioned the E1 makes $89. You have the chart in front of you?
I just have those numbers. I just figured that'd be
That's
good.
super. Mr. Chairman, you speak to the bill. The only thing I'd say is if you see this chart, I mean, when you go up to the officers, they get paid a whopping $120 a day, or, I don't remember what it is, but it is a ridiculously low sum of money for frontline duty in response to disasters, rallies in Charlottesville, whatever it may be, and this is just.
Well, I would just, Mr. Chairman, Senator Mason, I would just say, look at what we get paid, and we're not laying out on the street, and we're not spending, we might spend 12, 14 hours, but we're not standing guard in cold weather and inclement weather and storms and saving people and all that sort of stuff. So I would just say the time has come to take care of them. Thank you, Senator
I move to report and refer to finance, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, before we do act on that, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to or in favor of the bill? All right. We have a motion and a second to report the bill. We'll vote on the board.
Thank you, guys.
Ayes 15, no 0.
All right, and then that is, reported and re-referred to finance. All right, Senator Mason?
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 672. I meant to bring my secretaries with me, but I don't believe they're here. This was designed, Mr. Chairman, 672 is designed to extend the statutory period in a transaction that you can review property owner association or condo association documents. You may remember we've had a conversation before about sometimes they're very voluminous. We'll get an incomplete package. The clock starts ticking. You only get 3 days to review it. This would say if the seller and the buyer sign off and agree to extend that 3-day period to a 7-day period to make sure everybody gets a chance to thoroughly review those documents, that it's good to go for everybody. Currently, we can't do it, and this gives us a chance to do so.
All right, any questions of the patron? All right, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Chip Dix on behalf of the Realtors, and we requested Senator Mason to carry this bill, and happy to answer any questions. Hope you'll support it.
All right, any questions of Mr. Dix?
Second.
All right, anybody else wish to speak either in favor of or opposed to the bill? All right, we have a motion to report. Is there a second? All right, any further discussion? All right, we'll vote on the board.
Somebody's got Richards Brooks.
Oh.
That's 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, but Stewart left us proxy with Bogle. All right, the motion to report is adopted by a vote of 13-0. All right, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 380, I believe is before the committee.
380.
And Brooks, the status from last, was it in the original form, or did the committee adopt any amendments, or we reset?
Mr. Chairman, at the last meeting, we adopted 4 amendments.
I'd ask that the committee reject the amendments adopted the previous committee to return it to its original position.
Were those amendments adopted at the last meeting?
They were.
All right, well, we need to reconsider the vote then by which
Yes.
they were adopted. Do you want to make that motion?
I'd so moved.
All right, motion and a second to reconsider the vote by which the amendments were adopted. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion is adopted. Now we're back to the
original position of the bill.
Original bill.
So I'd like to offer now one line amendment on line 21 to delete or good faith assurances, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
After history. So including a history of would be the new sentence structure.
All right.
And after some of our discussion at the last, as you recall, this bill sets out in the pre-qualification session of the code in terms of identifying past performance of contractors, the history of adhering to OSHA and apprentice programs and other maintenance of subcontractor records. This framework and some of the language after consulting with DLS staff actually helps to ensure the process in the bid process, and actually the language is needed. So we had some clarification since the last meeting. That's why we took it by for the week, Mr. Chairman. So that is the bill, and it provides, again, at the local government level, the option to include this framework where the local government wants to ensure compliance to these 3 measures. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the patron?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I am catching up here and I apologize. Tell me again why moral is in here and if that's defined in the code, if I may.
Mr. Chairman, moral and business integrity is part of the definition of responsible bidder in this title. Sorry.
So it's identifying terminology within the title, and that's why it's recommended that it stay within the section.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator Donovan.
and I mean no ill will to this. It's just, this is law, and I don't know how you measure moral. It's subjective in business integrity, and I understand it's in the title, and we bind ourselves to these titles, but I am concerned about passing a bill that dictates moral discretion in law. I think that's concerning, and there's no way around.
Mr. Chairman, I believe what the council is indicating, that this is pulling from an existing code, so it's already law, of helping to frame and define that and giving sort of
It's not the title.
courts a framework to make determinations in a court of law.
I appreciate the clarification. So it is a definition in the code already, correct?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator Reed.
oftentimes, at least the 8 years I've been here, we sometimes put the code section behind something like that so it can reference back to it, and maybe that might be a suggestion after moral and business integrity as defined by code blank, and
Very helpful.
I don't know what that code is, but I think that might clarify the senators and others that might have the same objection. Just a suggestion.
Staff, you want to comment on that? What
Yeah,
would?
if I may. So the sentence reads, the moral and business integrity and reliability included that will assure good faith performance. That is required of a responsible bidder. And so if you look at the definition of responsible bidder, 4301, give me one moment. 2.2-4301.
Chairman, I would make that suggestion after that last line, that's appropriate English language correction, to put that as pursuant to that code.
All right, is there a second on that motion? Yes.
Please.
That's a definition of what? I'm in the code section now.
Responsible
It's-
bidder.
it-
I mean,
Got it.
responsible bidder.
There you go.
So just point of order, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps all we need in this is responsible bidder, since it's defined in the code elsewhere, and then reference the code section.
Responsible bidder is defined in 2.2-4301.
Yes, sir. I think that's gonna to do no harm to your bill, but just to
Mr. Chairman's getting choked up about it.
and I'll offer that as a substitute-friendly amendment if it's agreeable.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that amendment, and I agree that makes it a much clearer statement and leads you to the right direction where the definition is at without being repetitive in the code.
All right. Any comments from the patron on that?
I think it's a friendly amendment. If we can work out, Brooks, you need a few moments to take a look, or we think we have it?
If you're ready.
Yes.
All right, we have.
So the line amendment would be on line 19, after bidder, strike possesses through required of on line 20, and insert is. So it would read, any locality may include in limitation to bid criteria that may be used in determining whether a bidder is a responsible bidder.
And then the code section reference.
As defined
All right.
Yeah, so.
pursuant to 2.2-4301.
And Amanda's got a bill here. Amanda's got a bill here.
I move that line amendment.
The motion is to adopt this line amendment that's been proposed. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to report.
All right. Motion to report has been seconded. Any further discussion? Let's vote on the board.
Ayes 13, no zero.
All right, it's reported with amendments. All right, Senator Boysko.
Yes. I'm going to vote for my bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got two bills. The first, I will start with SB 650, the Virginia Public Procurement Act, small purchases. Mr. Chairman and committee, I have a line amendment first, which would amend lines 71 through 79 to read, for state public bodies, informal solicitations conducted under this subsection shall require the posting of a public notice on the Department of General Services Central Electronic Procurement website. Local public bodies are encouraged to utilize the Department of General Services Central Electronic Procurement website to provide the public with a centralized visibility and access to the Commonwealth's procurement opportunities. You all should have a copy of that. Oh, yeah, yes. Sorry, I thought I had.
Which bill is this?
This
650,
is
okay.
SB 650, excuse
Okay.
me, Mr. Chairman. It's
Wanted
been
to
a
make sure
long
it wasn't up there,
afternoon.
so.
So the first amendment on line 73, the introduced bill, after bodies, strike purchases and insert informal solicitations conducted. Second amendment, line 73, introduced after subsection, strike that are expected to exceed 30,000. On line 74, after the, strike small a in parens, written informal solicitation of a minimum of 4 bidders or offers, and B, small b in parens. And then the final line amendment, the fourth line amendment, on line 75 of the introduced bill, after website, strike the remainder of line 75, all of line 76, and through body on line 77.
All right, those are the line amendments that are proposed. Does anybody want to make a motion on it?
Was there another line amendment that was read by the patron to begin with that was in addition to that, or were you reading the strike?
I would trust what he told you. Madam.
Mr. Chairman,
Certainly, Senator Donovan.
point of order, the only change in the original bill is on line 64, where 100 is stricken to 200,000.
That's the actual bill.
Yes, on the original bill, but we don't have a substitute on this? Okay. And may I ask, Mr. Chairman, what the intent of the amendment is?
Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Boysko.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Department of General Services asked for the amendment just to make clarification so that people would have access to the change in the policy, I believe.
All right, any other questions of the patron?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I need to see the substitute. Can we pass this by for a week? I just need to see, are there? Okay, so basically, we're striking we're striking a lot of what, thank you.
A lot of 73 through 77.
Okay. So the intent is that instead of 4 bidders, that it's just defined as informal solicitations conducted, and then the rest of it is just to say it's on a procurement website and not list the other website by definition.
That's my understanding.
All right, now I'm okay.
Oh, excuse me, I didn't know I had Lifeline down
I'm
here.
sorry. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
introducing this amendment.
thank
Mr. Chair, Sandra Gill,
Yes.
Department of General Services, and we appreciate Senator Boysko carrying this amendment for us. The Department of General Services, as you know, maintains the electronic procurement website for the state. And so there's no longer the need, when this language was added back in 1999, 2000, that we informally solicit 4 bidders. Every opportunity is publicly posted on our website.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions people have? Any further statements you wish to make, Senator Boysko?
Just on the amendment, I move that you accept the amendment.
All right, we have the amendment. Is there a second? All right, we got a motion and a second to accept the line amendments. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That's adopted.
Right. So to go back to the original bill, this simply, I'm carrying this for the County of Loudoun. It would increase from 100,000 to 200,000, the small purchase exemption under the Virginia Public Procurement Act for single term or term contracts for goods and services other than professional services. I have representatives here from Loudoun County who can speak to the bill if you request. Thank you.
All right, proceed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Jeff Gore on behalf of Loudoun County, also on behalf of Virginia Association of Governmental Purchasing and Virginia Association of Counties, all in support of the bill. It's been, almost 10 years since this threshold was increased. This is, localities and state public bodies are doing $1 million procurements and that take tons of time and attention. This is really for small cookie cutter procurements in lieu of having to do an emergency procurement. Statute still provides on line 67, you'll see, for competition. So it's not like these are just inside deals. There's competition that is solicited. It's just a much quicker, more efficient, less formal process that is good government. It'll save taxpayers money. So appreciate your support.
All right, anything else? Anybody else wish to speak on the bill, either for or against? All right, is there a motion on?
Move to report.
All right, is there a second? Okay, any further discussion? All right, let's vote on the board.
Thank you.
Ayes 13, no zero.
13-0. That will be reported with amendments.
Excellent. This one will be easy. SB 653 for escrow of rent payments for properties in foreclosure. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, today I'm presenting SB 1653 provides that in the event of a foreclosure of a real property, all rent monies, regardless of when received, shall be deposited into an escrow account by the end of the 5th business banking day following the receipt, unless otherwise agreed to by the principals to a lease transaction. In the Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, existing law says that a landlord can collect and deposit current rent in their operating account, but this provision does not apply to property managers who are real estate brokers. There is a perceived discrepancy between escrow law and regulations. This would clarify it. And I am joined here by representatives of the Virginia Realtors and hope it's the pleasure of the body.
Thank you, Senator Boysko and Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. The confusion here is that under the Virginia Residential Landlord Tenant Act, it says you can put current rent into your operating account. When you're a real estate licensee, though, all the rent that you receive is money that you're holding for third parties and should be placed in escrow. So what this bill does is to simply clarify that notwithstanding what the VRLTA says about being able to put it in an operating account, what you do here is just put this money into your escrow account, and then the real estate broker would divvy it out. Some rent would go to the owner of the property, some rent would go in a maintenance reserve, some would pay a real estate brokerage fee, that kind of stuff. So it's just a clarification. The regulations already provide for this. It was brought to us as part of the regulatory review at DPOR, and so we just hope that you support this clarification. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions? All right, anybody else wish to speak either for or against the bill? All right.
Report.
Motion to report, is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to report. Any further discussion? All right, we will vote on the board.
Ayes 13, no zero.
The bill is reported. All right, Senator Bell.
Mr. Chairman, while Senator Bell's going up, I'd like to move Senate Bill 385 be passed by for the day.
All right. All right, motion and a second to pass by for the day, Senate Bill 385. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That action is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First one was SB 346, and I know we had a substitute and actually gave a couple of very last-minute line item amendments to the clerk, so I'll let him read those now if we could. Yep. Move.
All right, there's a motion and a second to adopt the substitute. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The substitute is before us.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to speak to the amendment.
So the first amendment to the substitute on line 44 of the substitute, strike the entirety of line 44 and 45. The second amendment on line 49, strike superintendent and insert boiler operator. And third amendment on line 135, strike the entirety of line 135 and 136, and insert a $1,000 civil fine may be assessed to the owner or employer if a violation of this code section is confirmed.
Can you have counsel read the
Second line amendment.
The second amendment was on line 49. After on-site, strike superintendent and insert boiler operator.
All right. Is there a motion on the line amendments?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Council, what was the third amendment? I'm so sorry. $1,000.
So the third amendment was to strike lines 135 and 136 and insert a $1,000 civil fine may be assessed to the owner or employer if a violation of this code section is confirmed.
All right, we have a motion for the amendments. Is there a second? Second. All right, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Those line amendments are adopted.
Mr. Chairman, thank you to the clerk for that. I know those were very last minute. I appreciate your help. This is a bill that actually, I think they will come forward and say this. The Apartment Association actually asked me to carry this. They're not folks who usually ask for additional regulation, but in this case, felt it was in the best interest of safety. Boilers can, which are used for heating in buildings, can be very dangerous. And we've had incidents where people were not qualified, certified to operate them, and we've had negative things happen, and they could actually be quite catastrophic. So in this situation, what we want to make sure is that people who are operating the boilers, pressure vessels, things that, again, could be quite dangerous, know what they're doing. And this just seeks to do that, and it's a public safety issue. And the civil fine actually wanted to make it, in Maryland, this is actually a misdemeanor or a fine. I felt like making it just a fine would be easier, and I put may in there so there would be some discretion in case there was a really abnormal situation, and there would be discretion there so it wouldn't be an automatic. With that, I'll be happy to answer your questions and ask that the Apartment
All right,
Association.
any quicker questions? Anybody? All right. Anybody in favor or opposed to the bill? So come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian Gordon on behalf of the Apartment and Office Building Association. Our members do support this bill, as we need to have confidence that the engineers that are operating these systems are properly trained. As Senator Bell characterized, the consequences of even a small error can be catastrophic and deadly. The issue that we have right now is that surrounding jurisdictions in Maryland and D.C. do have licensure programs. So if you have an engineer who is not qualified to operate the systems in D.C. or Maryland, they end up coming down here in Virginia. So we're looking to raise the bar for the individuals who are operating these systems.
All right. Anybody?
Good afternoon. David Farrar with the National Association of Power Engineers.
just wanted to tell you guys, in 2017, Second Presbyterian Church is about 2 blocks away from here. There was a boiler explosion there. There was 2 people injured. Luckily, nobody was killed, and it wasn't full of people at that church at that time. That's from a boiler explosion. Just last year, about 6 months ago in Chesterfield, Virginia, there was a 2-alarm fire where 50 firefighters had to respond because of a boiler explosion, where 100 employees were working inside the place at the time. 2 years ago in St. Louis at the Lower Lane Box Company, there was a 1-ton boiler that blew up. It flew 520 feet away, and it had over 10 seconds of hang time. So it was in the air for 10 seconds. A 1-ton piece of metal came down and killed 3 people. So obviously, having people operating these boilers, which are pressure vessels, it would make really good sense if we could have those people licensed. So that's what we're hoping you guys would approve.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Question.
Was faulty maintenance found to be the cause of those boiler explosions?
No, it's not always based on the maintenance. So a lot of times there was a boiler that exploded in Washington, D.C. a few years back. That was actually because they had a security guard on the weekend resetting the boiler that was tripping off. And it filled up with fuel oil, and they kept resetting it. And next thing you know, the boiler explodes, shoots out the side of the building. The one in the box company, what happened there was actually it's a pressure vessel. It was kind of like, picture like a helium tank type deal where it's standing up like this. There was a problem on the bottom of it. And the operator actually turned off the boiler and ran the other boiler. Well, nobody ever told the guy that was working Monday morning to not turn this boiler on. The person coming to fix the boiler was already called and was on his way to come fix the boiler. The new engineer comes in Monday morning. He didn't know to not turn on the boiler, turns it on, it explodes, and he died. So by having boiler operator licenses, it ensures people follow the standards that are set, which include logbooks, includes safe practices, and that's what we're hoping for. The other reason a lot of boilers explode is the boilers are basically, it's a vessel of water with fire typically going through tubes to heat it up, which is like a coil inside the boiler. A lot of times what will happen is if the boiler runs low on water, those tubes can get really, really, really hot. Then if somebody comes in and does add water, it flashes to steam so quickly, a steam can grow 12,000 times. So it literally just explodes the vessel, sending it through the air.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Senator Donovan.
just on follow-up, I certainly want it to be more safe and for that to be resolved. But I just want to make sure that the bill we're passing actually does resolve that, because it sounds like it's policies and procedures at these businesses as opposed to licensing, setting up a new license. And I'm just trying to figure out if we've actually connected all the dots on this.
Right. So by having license requirements, what that does is that ensures that employers hire the right people that are qualified to do the jobs. So what we're trying to ensure is that the people that come to do this job have actually been trained and they know what they're doing. You're not taking somebody who's never done this before and you're saying, go figure this out. So it's putting the qualified people here. It's turning this more into a trade, which it is a trade. You have to be licensed to be a boiler, to build boilers. You just don't have to be licensed to operate them in Virginia right now. Like Brian alluded to earlier, DC does have these requirements. Maryland does have these requirements. These requirements are not in Virginia. So I work for one of the largest property owners in DC and in the surrounding area. And I mean, it's the best people are doing this. They can go work in DC, they can work in Maryland, they can get paid more to do it. The people that can't pass the test, by default, they're going to work in Virginia. And now you're basically putting unqualified people in Virginia where my neighbors live and everybody else. I mean, I live in Virginia. Obviously want it to be safe. So I think it's a good opportunity to improve the safety of Virginia.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Donovan.
question. Do we know the cost of this licensing process for those that seek to be licensed?
We have not defined pricing in the bill, I don't believe. But DPOR, which would typically do this, they have standard things. So like I have a master HVAC tradesman's license. I think it costs $100 or, to renew it every 3 years. So I think it's a similar template. So I think they would be able to do the same thing, kind of go through the same process where, In Virginia, they use different third-party testing companies to do the exams, and they proctor them on a computer, just like every other licensing they do in Virginia. So it's something that, we're hoping they would just implement a similar process. It's the same way they do it in DC and Maryland. So in DC, it's $95 to get your license. I think in Maryland, it's $105, but I think it's up to the, DPOR to set the licensing fee.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, yes.
Just to speak to the bill, I've been in the building trades and process, and this is one of our sort of fundamentals outside of gas recovery and boiler. There's certain baseline standards that we hire for and look for as sort of a core team of people that deal with building maintenance issues, and this is certainly one of those core things that we look for in hiring, just as even a prerequisite coming into the job. We want any applicant to have some of these baseline standards. So this is one of the normal certificate process that people in the maintenance and building trades go through, whether it be refrigerant recovery, whether it be boiler operator. There's certain sort of basic things that one needs to have, and this certainly falls in line.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I would
Senator
say,
Bell.
back to Senator Donovan's question, the licensure, my research, it goes between anywhere from $75 to about $125. I didn't put that exact in here because, again, I wanted to let them manage this. I would say what I see as a relevant similarity would be to elevators. Certainly, we wouldn't let a security guard work on an elevator, and there's protections on that. I think maybe because this is hidden behind walls, somehow it slipped through, and we didn't have this licensure on that, even though the risk, as the gentleman was saying, is quite high and dangerous.
All right, any further questions?
Move to report.
All right. Anybody else wish to speak on the bill? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll vote on the board.
That's 12-0. That's 12-0, one abstention.
All right, 1201, the bill is reported with the substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next one is SB 475. And there is a substitute.
All right, it's been motion to adopt the substitute before us, and a second to that. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. All right, we have the substitute before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This actually, it's something that's not a mandate on using this type of procurement. It gives another option, and I've worked with a number of stakeholders. It's the design, build, best value. We give criteria that could be used in procurement, and the idea here is that to give more options instead of just using low price. Oftentimes bids are awarded to low price, and they're eventually it's cost overruns, engineering change orders, and frankly, the track record on many of the low-cost contracts that are awarded ends up being the projects are over schedule and over cost. So basically, this weights in some qualification factors and looks at the best value to procure, meaning considering not just the bottom line price, but what's going to be the price of the total cost and maintaining, et cetera. So we're trying to look at track record of companies who've completed work and making sure that we're also not, frankly, giving away these jobs to low bid outfits from other states. We want these jobs to be Virginia jobs. So that's what this does. I actually have worked with both the industry and with other stakeholders, and I think they're here and would like to speak, and I appreciate their cooperation if that would be all right, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Richard Thomas with the Design Build Institute, and we support the bill as amended. Really what the bill does is codifies what is now existing practice. There's a lot of best value bills and terms being put into, but one of the things that hasn't happened is it hasn't really, there hasn't been anything out there that really clarifies what that is. And if you look at all of the approaches that are laid out in the amendment, these are all these are all design build options that are being used all over the country with great success. Best value is a subset of design build, and it's also the best value approach is the one that's used most with design build. This really just puts some meat on the bone so folks know what the different options are out there so they can choose what's best for their specific project. And I'd be happy to take any questions on any of the specifics.
All
of
right,
some
are there
of
any
these
questions? Any questions? All right, is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the bill? This is substitute.
Mr. Chairman, there was an oversight when we did this we need to have another amendment on page 3, line 58. I will hand this to you. Somehow this got missed.
So I think we can do it in one line amendment on line 58 of the substitute. After subsection period, insert, nothing in this subsection shall be applicable to the procurement of construction, maintenance, or asset management of any highway, bridge, tunnel, or overpass.
All right, any questions related to that? Anyone want to make a motion for the line amendment?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, is there a second? Is there a second? All right. All right, it's been a motion and a second to adopt the line amendment. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. That's adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would turn it over to you for anybody who wants to speak for and against it.
Okay, come on up.
Mr. Chairman, Preston Bryant on behalf of the Associated General Contractors, and I realize this is Senator Bell's area of expertise, public procurement. Historically, the AGC has had concerns with best value because it, in some cases, in this bill is better than some others we've seen. It can be a little bit loosey-goosey, and best value can mean almost whatever you want it to mean. He does have scoring criteria and calls for that in here. We look at things through the lens of a contractor, builds buildings. Technical solution to building a building, we would like to better understand how technical solution to building a basic building might apply. On-time delivery is a scoring criteria. As you often know, sometimes the bidder, it's not the bidder's fault that they've had delivery issues. Is this on-time delivery with this particular body, or is it with all other projects and over what period of time? The history of cost overruns. Of course, cost overruns are not always a particular bidder's fault, but how are cost overruns tracked and by whom? And how is the fault of cost overrun assigned and verified that the cost overruns may be a particular bidder's problem or fault? Contractor performance ratings are listed in the bill. Ratings by whom? Who provides those ratings? So that's a question. If the committee decides to take this bill forward, we would hope that we could have further discussion to better understand some of these things that still may be a little undefined. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Matt Benke with the Virginia Contractor Procurement Alliance. We represent just general contractors statewide. We're mostly your mid-sized guys. We've been fighting the battle for years on construction management, which is a qualitative method of procurement. There is very little or anything that they could not do under construction management. The last thing that our group thinks needs to be done is to create a whole new method of procurement with very little definitions, criteria, and other things that are out there. We're very opposed to this bill. We'd be glad to work with the patron, but after talking, I'm not sure if there's that much room. But again, we fought the battle on construction management. It's a completely qualitative method of procurement. If someone wants to do this, they can use that method of procurement to do exactly this. We don't need to clutter up the code with new stuff. Thank you.
Julia Carlo Hammond on behalf of Associated Builders and Contractors. We too have concerns about definitions or the lack of definitions on stuff, and we would like to work with the patron to shore. We certainly understand that there have been bad projects and bad actors, and we aren't here to justify any of that, but we want to make sure anything moving forward doesn't have any unintended consequences.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
One question for the gentleman from the Design Build Institute. Can you provide me with a common range in public procurement for the weighting of price?
No.
I've seen ranges from traditionally 70, 40 is on the lower side, and a lot of best value procurements as well. Can you give me an average of where this would stand with other public bodies?
It really varies. You know, the standard of care for a healthcare center or a water treatment plant is not going to be the same as a parking lot or something, you know, or a road, you know. So I think the beauty of design build is it does give those local agents or local governments or local agencies the option for each project to use that. I mean, for one project, the most important factor may be speed. You know, if you have storms come through and it takes a roof off a building, speed may be the thing. If it's a simple project, you may want to just do that project low bid.
So
or have that.
Thank you.
You know,
Mr.
very
Chairman.
much price.
So follow up. I think some of your answer sort of highlights a couple of my concerns. And I think there's a friendly amendment to the patron I might offer. You highlighted a number of different factors which are variables across construction projects and other projects which best value can help waiver, but yet in the code we're sort of prefixing a percent and a weight to the solutions when in fact technical solution or other factors because of that bid actually might be better to actually allow the local authority to determine those factors. And so as of what I would consider an offer to the committee and to the patron, a friendly amendment, there would be 3 line amendments associated with this. To delete the 30% sections on line 50, there's 2 of them. After comma solution, and then after performance comma, delete the 30%. And then on line 53, in lieu of comma 40%, say no less than 60%.
Mr. Chairman, I would be agreeable to that.
All right, staff, you got that down?
Could Senator McPike, could you repeat that?
Line 50
Yeah.
would be to strike after solution comma the 30%. And I guess the comma at that point, 30%. After the next deletion, striking after performance, striking comma 30%. And then on line 53, in lieu of after price comma, deleting 40%, inserting no less than 60%.
All right. That motion is being made. Is there a second? All right. Any comment from the patron?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So I'm having a hard time keeping up. And we were all kind of all over the place here. A couple of folks said they'd like to talk to you about making this work. One gentleman said you got no shot. But would you be interested in taking, if to the chairman's indulgence, taking it by for the week, having a conversation with some of these folks to try to tighten it up and see if we can get to where you want to go?
Mr. Chairman, I would say absolutely. I mean, I'm willing to tighten it up. I mean, this is a complicated thing. It is an area that I work in, but I'm always willing to do that. And if another week helps us make it better and satisfy some of the concerns and clarify, I think that's a good thing to do.
And I apologize to the gentleman. This is not my area of expertise, I'll tell you that.
No apologies necessary. I think it's a good thing. I mean, if we can make it better, let's do it.
All right, you want to make a motion? All right, motion and a second, to take it back for the day, which will put it into next week. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. All right, that is done. We got one bill we need to revisit. It was Senator, it's just a minor revisiting. We did not re-refer to finance Senate Bill 773, which was Senator Stanley's historical designation for the motor racing down in there. So, is there, anybody want to make a motion to reconsider the vote by which we? All right. All right, there's a motion, there's a second? Second? All right, motion and a second to reconsider the vote by which we pass Senate Bill 773. All in favor say aye. Well, actually, do we need to make that a roll? That's a roll, actually, on the board.
Ayes 11-0.
All right. All right, motion to report and re-refer to finance. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Oh, wait a second, we got to go on board. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, and then we have Senator Chase. After, that was 13-0 on that vote, so that it's reported and re-referred to finance, so.
Thank you,
Senator
Mr.
Chase.
Chairman, members
Okay.
of the committee. Senate Bill 945 is a public safety bill that came about as a discussion that I had with the Capitol Police. The Division of Capitol Police conducted a survey of state parking facilities in September of 2019, which determined that at least 4 parking decks at the time of the test, there was no service for either cell phones or police radios. The absence of cellular service may prevent an employee or anyone for that matter calling 911, making non-emergency calls for police assistance, and presents an officer safety issue because an officer, or anyone for that matter, responding to an incident in these locations has no way to contact dispatch. And from a consumer side, anyone using the parking deck, they can't call for help, and it's a problem. Cost estimates provided by Adam Rosatelli say that the 9th Street deck costs about $300,000. All other state decks are approximately $200,000 each. There are 45 deck total, non-state and 36 higher education. So to do all government decks would be about $9 million. Just the state government decks would be $1.9 billion. I have Captain Whitmer, who is here with the Capitol Police in support of the bill.
All right, any questions for the patron?
Does she have a budget amendment in?
Yes.
All right, come forward, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Steve Whitmer with the Division of Capitol Police. The senator has introduced this bill, and we're happy to say that this would provide a meaningful enhancement for safety for the state employees who use these decks. That survey revealed that a number of the decks had poor cell and radio signal. And as you might imagine, the problem was significant in the decks that have below grade levels. And so that's what common sense would lead us to believe. So we're happy to support the senator's bill.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Has there been any pre-survey or discussion at all with some of the cell phone carriers? I recently have an underground garage that I've done an assessment for, and actually they're doing it for free with no legislation, because there are add-on carrier fees which you can charge through a private network that the carriers don't want to lose, and therefore they're incentivized to install these. So has there been an exploration of using our existing partners at no cost to the taxpayers?
I'm not aware of any such discussion, Senator.
All right. Anything further? All right.
Just one question. What are the current safety measures that are present in our, just out of curiosity, do we have phones there? What safety precautions do you have in any of these parking decks?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Donovan, I'm not aware of emergency telephones being present in these parking structures. Although actually, I take that back. There may be some more recently constructed that have those facilities in place, and I have in mind State Lot 13, which has an area of rescue assistance. But State Lot 13 was not a deck where we observed a serious problem with radio and cell phone service. That deck is entirely above grade on at least 2 sides.
Okay.
So, perhaps DGS knows more about that than I do personally.
All right, any further questions? All right, is there anyone to speak either in support of or in opposition to the bill? All right, we'll take up the consideration of it. If we do recommend reporting, it would be reported and re-refer to finance, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I appreciate where the patron is going with the bill, but I have a hard time seeing where this is needed and required in our state code and legislation versus actually reaching out to our private partners, which work cooperatively. They actually want to get the service charge of adding on your phone if you reach out and have to those conversations, and I encourage staff to do that. I just did a survey and looked at security measures in an underground garage. We looked at, I think, what Senator Donovan was looking at, which is the blue call box. The blue call box features are being pulled out of actually many locations that installed them because of the service connection fees requirements, and then partnering up with your Verizon and AT&T as the solution. And so there are viable public-private partnership solutions at no cost to the locality, and I'd appreciate the senator's approach to this, but I would recommend that this bill be passed by indefinitely.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if it'd be the will of the committee, if the desire is to PBI, I would ask to pass it by for the week so I could get the answers to that question. This came from a personal experience I had in which I tried to call in the parking garage that we're assigned to and realized when I needed help, there was no cell service, which resulted to me not feeling safe in the parking space provided for us as General Assembly members. This is an immediate and serious consideration. I would tell you that since that point, they have now turned that parking area into public parking. So I'm concerned for people who are there parking who may not realize when they call for help, there's nobody coming because you can't even make a cell phone call. We can't wait another year. Innocent victims going through that process. If it's a desire to pass it by for the year, I ask that you instead pass it by for the week.
Mr. Chairman, I guess point of inquiry with the pending motion. The senator has indicated that she has a budget amendment submitted. Is it not true that the budget amendment can still be a vehicle to address what she is seeking to do with monetary payment should there not be a partnership available?
Yes, that is true, yes.
Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I'd politely renew my motion to PBI, and I think the senator should continue to explore the budget amendment process versus actually legislating building fixes which have other viable solutions.
All right, is there a second to that motion? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Yes.
I would just like to ask a point of clarification
Certainly.
and make a comment to the patron. Are you saying that when you're in the parking garage that we use, you don't have cell service?
The one that there's an upper level and a lower level. And for 4 years, I parked in the lower level. One day I needed to make a call and couldn't do so. And it was at that moment that I realized we had a problem.
Thank you.
And that area has now since been turned into a public parking area, and I am extremely concerned about the public. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Senator Boyko.
may I just make a comment? I use the same garage and have never had a problem with cell service. I think maybe different providers have better service.
Mr. Chairman, I would respond, she's probably using the upper deck, the entrance into Franklin Street as opposed to 9th Street.
I've used all areas of it, but I'm going to be supporting the motion by our colleague.
All right, any further questions? All right, motion is to pass by indefinitely, and we will vote on the board, so.
Ayes 8, noes 4.
The bill is passed by indefinitely, but you certainly still have the opportunity to work with the Finance Committee to address the budget amendment you have in, so.
Thank you.
As well as other things, so. All right, is there any other member of the committee who has a bill to bring up today, so?
Me? No?
You, okay,
You don't want me to do my bill?
go ahead.
Oh, come on, guys, this is such a great way to close out the day. It's a great moment for Virginia.
Are we PBI?
I hope not. So this is the substitute. In fact, this is Senate Bill, let's see, it's Senate Bill 363, and this becomes a Section 1 bill, Mr. Chairman. This is a bill that's familiar to this committee and to the Senate as we passed it out of the Senate last year. This is in regard to the Virginia Works Education Workforce Portal that we are aspiring to develop so that all things regarding how to interconnect education to jobs, including financing that education, would be in a single repository in Virginia, making it easy for us to build the workforce of the future. VEDP has agreed to do the work group this year, which will align all of the stakeholders in the different agencies regarding workforce and education to figure out a way for us to go forward with this. So with that Section 1 bill and this great day for Virginia, Mr. President, I will recommend we report. Thank you.
All right, there's a motion to adopt a substitute, which makes it, among other things, makes it a Section 1 bill.
Yes.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
And Mr. Chairman,
That's it.
VEDP is able to do this within their budget. There's no budget
No
amendment.
budget amendment. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Was there a budget amendment on the original bill?
No, sir. Oh,
I mean, was there a fiscal impact statement on the original bill? I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure I can
Because I
tell you
do
the
have
answer.
a
Yes, I
letter
believe there
from the
was.
Chair of Finance.
Yeah,
who-
there was an original budget amendment, and there's none. If you would like to send it to Finance, it's fine with me. I'll take it up with them.
All right.
But there is, with it becoming a Section 1 bill and a study, it is different than the original bill.
Right.
And there is no actual fiscal impact with the adopted substitute.
All right. Well, what I would suggest is that we amend the motion, report, and re-refer to Finance. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator
I just
Booth.
want to make sure, because I don't see it in here, and I know she doesn't, it might be an overlook. But we're not, Senator Donovan, I just want to make sure we're not leaving out some of our veterans hiring groups and those sort of things. I know it gives latitude to VEDP to kind of do some other agencies identified, but we definitely have some support there through our VSOs and some others. V3 program, Virginia Values Veterans.
We do.
those-
And I am happy to include those comments if you want to include them. I do want the work group to be functional, so it is trying to leverage most of the entities that are involved. And I think V3 is also through the chambers. So we're working with all of those programs to include them in the portal. I will say, I do think there was a late amendment. I don't know if it got in here to include labor in the work group, Department of Labor. And so I do want to, if I may make that one line amendment, and if you want me.
Line
it's in
18,
there.
I think it's in there.
Good.
Is that, staff, does that cover it?
Mr. Reeves, Mr. Senator Reeves, do you have a specific line amendment you want to submit? Or do you want me to just take note? Very good. I am very amenable to that.
Mr.
Well, staff, would the reference in line 18 to the Department of Labor and Industry, would that cover it?
Yes, sir. The amendment was included.
Yeah. So it wasn't, apparently it was included, so. All right, well, we have a motion to report and re-refer to Finance. And that's been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Oh, wait a second, we gotta go to the board here.
What a great way to end the day.
Yeah.
Ayes 12, no 0.
George said he's buying pizza.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, before we
Yes.
end the day, our legislative services team is working amazingly hard across the board in this place. But it seems like no committee like this committee has substitutes and amendments, and we're killing trees and working this team extremely hard. So I think we owe them our extreme thanks for doing an amazing job. So thank you.
Was that a play to get the support from your colleague to your right on the logging industry in Southwest Virginia? So, yeah. All right. If there's nothing else, the committee will rise.